Have you been priced out of the golden era of vintage stereo equipment? Maybe you're looking to add a stereo to your garage or a backup system. These are the best bargains in vintage stereo equipment. Undeniable. It's not even a question. These are so underrated. They're so undervalued. And we're going to get out of our comfort zone on this one a little bit. We're going to abandon the 70s golden era of hi-fi, and we're going to take a look at some of the best pieces from the 80s and 90s that you can pick up really cheap. I got to move this coffee cup to put some equipment down. A couple people mentioned that this is satanic, and I don't even remember what all they said, but they accused us of being satanic or devil worshippers, and I assure you that's not the case. The guy that owns the tattoo shop, a little strange. He's not a devil worshiper, neither am I. If it starts levitating on its own, I'll burn it. And this video is brought to you by skylabsaudio.com. Lots of vinyl records, t-shirts, slip mats, products by Grado, Advanced Paris, Wharfdale, and many others. Head over to Skylabs Audio. We appreciate you supporting the channel and our local small business. Thank you. The first one I want to point out is the Onkyo TX-840. I love these receivers. I really do. I actually have 3 of them in the shop. One's at the tattoo artist. This one's been his stereo for 5 years, I think now. And he just grabbed it on Facebook Marketplace. Did you get this for 50 bucks or something? $50. 50 bucks. One is my test stereo. I literally test every turntable and set of speakers that come through the door on that TX-840, and it's been there for 8 years. And you have to think about how many shorted speakers or damaged speakers have been hooked up to that receiver, and it doesn't even blink an eye. And then this is another 840 that I keep around just to give to customers when they've got something in for repair. It's been in more people's houses than you can imagine. Every time somebody brings it back, they go, "That's a great receiver." And I go, "I know. That's why I keep it as a loaner." They're indestructible, it seems like. And eBay says the same thing. Because just a couple weeks ago, I looked these up and there were 10 available working condition on eBay at one time. I don't think there's as many now, but a few weeks ago, there were 10. And we get these in every once in a while. Somebody brings in their CD player, cassette deck, everything, and they always work. Now, most of the time, I don't buy equipment like this because, it doesn't have a lot of value. It takes up space where something more valuable could be. We don't service this era of equipment, and most people don't because the value's not there. It's unfortunate, but it's not cost effective to put, 2 or 3 hours into troubleshooting a piece of equipment from this era when they sell working for 100 to 150 bucks. And they're nothing to sneeze at as far as the audio quality goes. These things sound really good. They've got a phono input. They've got speakers AB. I believe this one is 65 watts per channel. While this isn't a 5.1 receiver, it does have video in and out on it, a precursor to 5.1. And you can tell these are right on that cusp. By the time the 90s rolled around, they really didn't do anything to dress up the fronts. It was just a really plain Jane black box. And these receivers from the mid 80s, at least they still tried a little bit to make them attractive. And I really like the looks of these too. I like the green and the yellow. There's a TX-85 and a 65, which are the first Integras from Onkyo. And I had an 85, and I actually sold it to the tattoo artist next door. He has it at home. And that's a great receiver. That's a really cool looking receiver. But these seem to be just about everywhere. And that's one of those things you want to look out for if you are planning on buying an 80s or 90s receiver that's cheap. If there's 10 or more units on eBay working, most likely that's a good piece of equipment that's continued to work without any service at all. Don't overlook the mid 80s to early 90s Onkyos. I think you'd be missing out on something really fun, really cheap. This is the VSX 4900S. Now, this isn't the original unit I bought back in the day in 91 or 92. but it's the same model. These continue to work as well. It seems like almost all of them from this era just work. Every time we see them, they're working. And with the early Pioneer VSX line, they did have Dolby 5.1. So this was the early Pro Logic. You've got your rear speakers, your center channel, that type of thing, but you still have your phono in here, and these still sound really good. And there's a lot of other good pieces from this era from Pioneer. The DS1, the 4900, we've seen a lot of 3600s, a lot of 2600s, and they always work. They just work. I don't think these are ugly at all. I really like the looks of these with the yellow and the red and the orange against the black. I think they look great. And the other bonus with this era of equipment is you get a remote control. And that's really nice considering none of the stuff from the 70s had remote controls. Another cool thing to note about these, I don't know when they stopped putting the AC outlets on the back, but these still have AC outlets just like these do. So you can plug in your CD player, tape deck, turntable, everything else, EQ, and just have one on and off switch and let these turn those units on and off. I wish they still included those because it really makes things a lot easier and a lot cleaner. Definitely one of my favorite receivers from this era, and a lot of it probably is sentimental because I did buy one of these when they were brand new. This is just something I keep back in the back and pull it out every once in a while when I want to feel a little nostalgic. And considering you can buy a really decent one for 75 bucks, 75 bucks, you can't get anything for 75 bucks anymore, especially a working receiver that's this good, that sounds this good, and looks this good. And another one we have to talk about, but I don't have here. It's actually in my garage. It's been in my garage for 10 years. I don't think I've ever blown it out. I don't think I've ever cleaned the pots. I sharpen my own lawnmower blades. I do woodwork. I do quite a bit of stuff out there that should have affected it. And it still works great. That's why it's still there. And that is a Sony STR-D615. And I grabbed a little video of it just so you could see it. And the only thing that's wrong with it is the display's out. You can't see what radio station you're on, but I usually just leave it on one radio station anyway. And then I have a little Bluetooth adapter hooked up to it so I can just play songs off my phone. But this was a freebie that was given to me a long time ago. It spends every day of its life in the winter, in the heat, in the moisture, everything. And one of the crazy things about this receiver is when I got on eBay to look, there were 27 of these Sonys available on eBay at the same time. And all of them but 3 were under $100. Some of them, for me, the shipping was more expensive than the unit itself. I think that really speaks a lot of volume to how robust that Sony is. I almost picked one up myself as a backup just in case my garage unit goes bad. And I know a lot of people out there are probably saying, well, this isn't, it's not truly vintage. That's not vintage. Well, I think it depends on, what era you consider vintage. How old is something vintage? And it's the same with antiques. Let's ask Google. Let's see what they say. Vintage items are generally considered to be at least 20 years old, but less than 100 years old. So that would put really vintage at 2005? So I definitely think you can consider 80s and 90s vintage. To us older people out there, that might seem a little odd, but you have to think, if a 20-year-old is looking at buying a vintage piece of stereo equipment, the 90s is old. And do not overlook speakers from this era. There were some really good bookshelf speakers made in the 90s and the 2000s that are just sitting there that sound really good, that are just waiting for somebody to come pick them up for almost nothing. I've had these PSBs, these are Alphas. I've had these PSB Alphas on that bench for 5 years. Most amplifiers that come through the door that need attention get hooked up to these first because I'm not worried about blowing them. But they've never blown. They're still working and sounding good. They're not on the pretty side, but that's why they have that job. It's nothing I want to sell on the floor because cosmetically they're a little bit beat up and they don't have a lot of value, but they sound really good. I've had a lot of people comment how good these things sound, and I show them that's the PSBs we're listening to. And a lot of people have been truly shocked. PSB is a Canadian company. We've had several of their speakers in, and I'm always impressed with how they sound, especially for the money. For what you're going to spend on a speaker like this, I really don't think there's a better bargain out there. There for a while, there was so much hype about the Sony STR-D615 XR. I've got one here. Let me show you. It's the Sony SSCS5. So many people have raved about this speaker and how good it is, and I get it. There for a while, you could pick these up on sale for $100, and they're brand new. I think they sound terrible. I really do. I bought these a couple years ago after hearing so many people rave about them. I wanted to hear them, and $100, I was like, I want to try them. I don't care if I use them. I want to have an opinion on them since everybody thinks this is the best deal with new speakers. And I think they sound horrible.
Come on, Kevin. These are the best speakers ever. Yeah, best.
We put them on the stereo wall here one day, and we let customers and everybody here at work, and we sat there and A-B'd through them, and everybody said the same thing. They don't sound good. I don't like the sound of them. I think you can get a $50 or a $40 used set of 90s bookshelves that sound 3 times as good as this thing. And I'm not trying to bash on the people that like these at all. If you like them, who cares what I think? But I don't like them. I would take this over this any day of the week. And there's a lot of other speakers as good as the PSBs that are just as cheap. Speakers by Polk, JBL Northridge, the JBL HLS series, the Boston Acoustic HD series. There are so many speakers in this footprint from the 90s that sound really good that are almost free. They might not be something you're going to put on really nice speaker stands and show off in your living room, but as far as the sound quality goes, for the price, it's tough not to really like these things. And if you like watching this video, definitely check out this one. It's going to be fun. It's free. Click it.